Hello friends, this is a video for November of the year 2022. In November, full moon will happen on November 8th in Taurus, which is also total lunar eclipse, and that's what I'm mainly going to talk about in this video. Then new moon will happen in November on the 23rd, and it will happen in the sign of Sagittarius. Let's say at the beginning few important transits. Sun is in Scorpio until the 22nd of November, and then it is in Sagittarius. Mercury is in Scorpio until the 17th, then in Sagittarius. Venus is in Scorpio until 16, and then in Sagittarius. So the energy shifts quite a lot in the second part of the month, and it will be lighter and easier later. Mars is also in Gemini and it's retrograde. You will most probably remember that Mars has this epic transit through the sign of Gemini. It is quite long there and it is fighting now in an intelligent way. Jupiter is in Pisces all this month and it will be direct from the 24th. I will not mention other important aspects. I will incorporate them into that's what I'm going to talk about. So I'm not going to list them. The month begins with significant aspect of Venus. On the 3rd of November, Venus is in conjunction with Ketu. Ketu is the south node of the moon, or the dragon's tail, as they say in the East, or especially in Indian tradition. They talk about dragon's head and dragon's tail. So now this conjunction between Venus and Ketu will happen in Scorpio. By the way, Venus in Scorpio is little understood, especially is mysterious in conjunction with Ketu. Let's remember that Venus itself is a female planet. It symbolizes woman lover, and this is that goddess that the Tantra yoga is speaking about. When man understands woman as a goddess, this is in Tantra, how they want to present to this female role in the partnership, which is hardly understood in Western countries, in Western world. Venus also means money, attractiveness, and values, to say it shortly. In Scorpio, Venus always go through a deep transformation in order to understand everything it symbolizes. And some process like that will happen in November. Ketu and Rahu, these lunar nodes, or that dragon that is in the sky, are understood in Eastern tradition as demons, especially in Jyotish. But actually the word Ketu in Sanskrit means light. And it has similar meaning, Ketu, in Persia and in Arabic astrology and astronomy from the Middle Ages until today. That's why the beginning of November actually marks a big transformation related to everything that Venus symbolizes, but in conjunction with this light. This actually can mean that someone loses, but someone gains. And not only because of this conjunction of Venus, but also because of the eclipses that are happening now in this time in October and November. We can also say that the main subject of this video is that someone becomes aware of that what he is losing, and that someone understands what he has, which maybe he did not understand before. This is of some deep understanding of this kind. Further, I will just add that Ketu, or that light, has significance for people who are introspective and who have spiritual life. If somebody is too much oriented on material world, then this conjunction can really mean for him loss. There can be really losses in material sense. Further aspects that Venus makes from the 5th of November until the 10th are quite challenging because they're there are aspects between Saturn and trans-Saturnian planets, and this indicates some sudden changes or even limitations, and quite a long process in achieving something. And also these aspects mark great expectation, like expectation without limits. Especially this aspect between Venus and Neptune. And those aspects, of course, can be good and bad at the same time, but they're a little bit tricky. And they will mostly affect Libra, Taurus people, and also those who have planets on the first degrees of Scorpio. In the middle of the month, from November 14th to the 20th, to be more precise, we have several short-lived but very, very positive aspects of the Sun, Venus, and Mercury. All of those planets will be in Scorpio, and they will aspect Neptune and Jupiter. Pardon. These aspects speak of harmonious relationships, they speak about success, true feelings, and it's a shame that they last for a very short time, but it is also quite a good sign because they appear after very, very stormy lunar eclipse, which is certainly the central event in November. These positive aspects are are very positive, the same way as positive is Jupiter in Pisces. Jupiter in Pisces is very promising. It symbolizes the salvation, as we said many times in this year. So this basically means for me that we can get out of the crisis without a big explosion or without some major destruction of nature and man, which is very actual, of course. Even though so far there are many victims in this war, which has been waged intensively since the beginning of the 2020, you know what was happening since that time. The war is going on, but many people still cannot understand which war is going on. So maybe many still think that the problem is another war that media speak about, but not this other one, which is very silent and which is very well planned. And it's going on and going on, and there are more and more victims there. But still, as I said, I think that we will overcome this without some big events that would be really terribly destructive. And of course, on November 8th, long-awaited total eclipse of the moon occurs on the 16th degree of Taurus. This eclipse is the second in the series. First one was partial solar eclipse, which happened on October 25th in Scorpio. Partial solar eclipse happen at the second degree of Scorpio. So people who have planets around this degree, they were affected by this, and maybe their conscience was not strong enough. Maybe they're still confused, but you should wait until the second part of November to understand what is really going on. Well, this first eclipse happened, was visible in Eastern Europe, western part of Russia and Asia. Also was visible from the Middle East and Muslim part of Asia. And it is exactly where fightings are going on now. Some fightings are reported about, some are not, and there is a reason why medias are silent about some sort of the fights which are happening there. This eclipse actually shows that we really don't know what is going on in the world. There are a lot of secrets. This is the eclipse of secrets. We don't know much about that, who rules the world and what is their plan. And this eclipse actually shows that. It talks about secrets and about very, very dangerous plans that they have for us. But total lunar eclipse that is happening on the 8th of November on the 16th degree of Taurus covers similar but different era of the world. It covers the Pacific and big part of the world, but it is moving from America. It covers the whole America, then across the Pacific, and it is going towards China and Russia. So let's remember, it's total lunar eclipse, and it's in Taurus. Let's also say that this first October eclipse happened with Ketu, with South Node, and the 2nd November is in conjunction with Rahu, North Node, and also in conjunction with Uranus, which is in Taurus, the planet of revolution. We said Ketu is that one that means light, while Rahu is actually that real demon that Eastern people are so much afraid of. Because, as they say, it is unpredictable, and because everything that Rahu gives is just the fiction in their explanation, because everything that he gives, he eats. You know, this is this dragon head that is always with the open mouth, so it eats everything that it gives. But I do not explain every eclipse in this way, and not always that every eclipse is, which is in conjunction with Rahu, is that demonic. But this one, it really is. Of course, metaphorically. It's demonic. So when we look at the horoscope of this eclipse, we see that those who are unable to transform and those who have used too much of other people's energy or resources, they will now lose. This is because Venus, the ruler of the eclipse, is in Taurus with Ketu. The oppositions between Taurus and Scorpio now show great nervousness, very nervous tension, which is felt by people, but not only, it is felt by our planet. Then further, Saturn is in square with the planets in Taurus and Scorpio. There is square between them. And this is quite good actually now, because it prevents sudden explosions, sudden changes in economy, in finances, and in values. We need to prepare for this. We don't need sudden things to happen still. And of course, the Saturn protects us from larger explosions like of that kind, you know which I mean. This upheaval that should happen now, this turnaround actually, should occur concerned territories because of Taurus, ownership, power of over certain territories, exploitation of raw materials that are found in some countries, which is symbolized by Scorpio, and so on. This is the subject of the eclipse. And if the rule is that when someone loses, someone wins or someone gains, that really can be like that. And I leave you to guess who is going to lose and who is going to gain in the future of these two sides of the world. Jupiter and Neptune make good aspects to the planets in Scorpio during the eclipse. And we said that these planets help spiritual people, those who understand that life is change, that the only law that really has and that really matters is the change actually. So those who are able to leave behind what they lived in the past, they can move on and be quite satisfied in the future. In this constellation, also the energy of Pluto has positive aspects, which is very good and transformative. Nevertheless, despite everything, the planets in Taurus with Uranus and Rahu continue the theme from the end of July. I spoke about that in my video for July. And I also spoke about that in my special video in August. The name of this video is Conjunction of Uranus and Rahu. Chaos is not to be destroyed, but to organize. So you can maybe check these two videos from this here if you want to understand what is now going to culminate at the 8th of November 2022. So of course it is about depth, it is the crisis and everything, but actually what they want to do, what these explosive energies talk about, is really nuclear explosion or some sort of explosion of this kind. And why would somebody do that? Well, because that will cancel debt, mark new world enemies, convince people that they need one world government, one currency, they need Vatsutsainas, continually in order to survive, and so on and so on. This is why they need that very big explosion. Well, I don't know what Middle East sages would say about this eclipse. I would like to know, but I don't know. But I would say that this is the end of the relationship between East and West, more precisely between America and Eurasia. But Western Europe is not under this eclipse. So this is east part of Europe, Russia, China, and there must be some border between them, that's symbolized by Pacific, and between America. Of course, not these countries. There's not going to be the end of relationship between those countries, but between the structures that govern them, as always. Since the eclipses are on the Taurus-Scorpio axis, the interruption of this relationship and change, of course, occurs on the first side because of money, energy, resources of the planet, different value systems, and so on and so on. Not only did they fight for territories, but also here there is another game that is playing. Not that someone is planning to reduce the number of people on this earth, but also somebody is planning to take territories from certain nations and then to live there, just to come and to take those territories and everything that those territories are and have. And definitely something like that is happening on the territory of the former Yugoslavia in Balkans, and that is also the background of that what is happening in Ukraine and many other places on the world, I'm sure also. Well, this total lunar eclipse belongs to the Saros series 136. The first eclipse in this series occurred in 1680s, which means that this is quite young eclipse. Eclipse horoscope speaks about the need for peace, even though extremely militant energies are active. People are also threatened with this eclipse. They are not really comfortable when this eclipse appears, and also someone aspires to gain great wealth. These are some subjects of this eclipse. And also, it opens the topics of the Aries-Libra axis, which are the topic of war and peace, diplomacy, and persistent domination. And this is really going to be subjects now for all of us more, this Libra, Aries thing, next year, when lunar nodes change the axis. We will talk about that next year. Well, when the first eclipse in this series 136 appeared, then the Great Comet was discovered. They say the first one that is discovered by telescope, discovered by Gottfried Kirsch. But of course it was not the first one, it was just for the West, the first one. Because in the East and in all other parts of the world, they had telescopes for thousands years and millennia before, and they discovered all of those things, not just by telescopes. Of course they had that, and they knew that before. It was just for the Western people. But what is interesting here, not just that great comet appeared, which means some boom there, some light that is unexpected, which by the way has the same symbolism as Ketu. But it's not just that I wanted to say. I wanted to tell you that actually the same eclipse also appeared in the year 1932. And what happened then? Well, you won't believe me really. At the 8th of November 1932, in America, in US, presidential elections were held, and Democratic Party candidate, which was Roosevelt in that time, was elected to be the president of United States, defeating the mandatory Republican president Hoover. So now is the question, why the elections for seats in the Congress in the US are on the same day. It is also 8th of November 2022. Why would anyone schedule an election on the day of the lunar eclipse? If we know that this is quite unpredictable, it is, eclipse days are always very dangerous days, actually. Total lunar eclipse. So the question is, do the Democrats expect a similar development as it was in 1932? And if they expect that, how likely is that will happen if we know that eclipses actually often turn things around for 180 degrees? So we will see. But this is really the top discovery that I made about this eclipse, at least for me. So the self-proclaimed bosses of the world always put elections, actually I wanted to add, on some important days. This is their important game. And as I'm Serbian by origin, I followed and I discovered that they actually elect president of Serbia often on the solar eclipse. So why would they do that? Well, because if the election for the president are on the day of the sun eclipse, it means that he cannot rule. He will be under the shadow or he will be in the dark. And that's exactly what they want. An eclipse from this series also appeared in the year 1878, which was very important. It was the year of Berlin Congress, which established actually the total control over Serbs and Balkans, who in that time were already independent from the Turkey, from the Ottoman Empire, the first nation in Balkan who was free from the Ottoman Empire. But Germans and Western countries, Britain, they were trying to limit Serbs there. And actually in that time Serbs signed some contracts which were quite limiting for them until now. And also this Congress limited the influence of Russia, not only in Balkans but in the eastern part of the world. The same eclipse appeared in 1914 when the First World War began, but this is not the exact eclipse which starts the war. This eclipse actually influenced the development of the war in the first year. Then the same eclipse from the same series appeared in 1968. And there is a book that says that this is the year which shocked the world. Well, people don't know what was really happening in that time. I'm not going now to talk about that, but I learned some things from history that are quite opposite from that what they say officially. Nevertheless, there were many assassinations in that year, and this was the year of the Prague Spring, and as they call occupation of Czechoslovakia in that time, which is the question, was that occupation or something else? But also this eclipse 136 did not influence all of the events in year 1968. It influenced those that appeared after October 1968. So don't be confused, because in this year there were also other eclipses. But maybe we can expect some similar things in a way. Well, maybe you will ask, why are eclipses so important? Well, first, it is quite certain that ancient people left many records of solar and lunar eclipses because these two lights on the sky were visible, and it was very easier to track eclipses than planets. But not only that, of course, they knew a lot. They could track everything, actually. They actually discovered something else that I occasionally mention in my videos and my interpretations of horoscopes. And that what they discovered, it is the law that appears through eclipses. I recently found an article where there was mentioned that Chaldeans means the inhabitants of the southern part of the Babylon, that they believed that the dragon, which is these eclipses, or demon, as Indians would say, that this dragon was created before the constellations and before the planets, and actually that the dragon ruled the universe. This should not be taken literally. This is mythology, of course. But it is clear that they discovered the law. And that is very important to understand that things that are happening on this background. That actually these celestial events, eclipses, influence other transits that we talk about. And I hope I will write an article about that once, but you know, I rarely write in English, so I don't know if I will be ready to translate. We'll see. From time to time, I see on the internet what these agendas that they're preparing for us and that they call New World Order are about, and I'm always shocked and surprised what I see. And I wanted to say a few things about that because we talk about clashes of values because of the Taurus archetype. So we now really very carefully to think about it on which side we are going to be. Because we can hardly identify with values that somebody is preparing if we are normal human beings. For example, I recently heard that in Spain they ask schoolgirls to be familiarized with the new program to reduce the number of people on the planet. And they tell them that girls will have to use contraception, for now still voluntarily, but it will be mandatory. And they're teaching girls that they supposedly have to do this to save the planet. And if they're saving the planet in this way, they're also doing, while they're saving in this way, they're doing other things. As maybe you know, they actually burned Britain and Germany in the summer because they need to dry this earth. They were causing hurricanes and storms and crazy weather everywhere. Why they need these dry fields and everything like that? Well, because people will be hungry, there will be no food, and then they can feed them with their synthetic meat, which they grow in their laboratories. Furthermore, I heard recently that on New Zealand there was official suggestion to the tax, that people should pay tax, to the bleaching of animals of the farms. Of course, they mean about something else, but they say bleaching. Because that other thing, that gas, produces methane, and that pollutes the air. And like now, farmers in New Zealand are not willing to pay the tax for that, and they're not discussing with them. Well, just think about that, please. Is it normal for you or not? For now, there are many protests in the world, especially in European Union. There were now the third big, for example, protests in Prague, and there in France and many other countries, in Germany and so on. But the trouble is here that protests can have a meaning if we live in democracy. But we do not live in democracy, so people do not understand them and they go to protest and they scream and they expect if they scream on demonstration that things will change. But things will not change because of that, you know? Everything has to be much more radical. And I guess people who are going to demonstrations know what actually I mean. Also, it's very interesting that now a process has been launched in the European Parliament to request and to examine the contracts that were signed by those who are responsible with Pfizer. But we will see, you know. I'm not going to speak in details, but I'm quite skeptic because I know that we don't live in democracy, so it cannot be just like that. Oh, we are protesting. They're playing with us. So we need to be quite more radical. Of course, I'm not going to list also everything what is happening with the money now. Dollar is not going to be petrodollar anymore. So now they're going different things to maintain dollar. That's why the euro has to fall in order the dollar to survive and things like that, which is also only like a short-term solution. Things will change radically in a few years. Everything that they do now are frauds, and we ordinary people really don't know what is happening, but we can understand a bit, at least through astrology, that this is the end of the world of consumers, consumerism, and of capitalism. This world is slowly disappearing and something completely different is coming, and we will see that more and more in this year, next year, and the years to come. Well, yes, it is very wise to choose the right side and right values in these divisions. Everything is turning around and nothing as it was. Whoever doesn't understand that has a problem. There are many struggles now going in the world, but these struggles cannot stop the time. The time moves, the time brings changes, and the time moves cyclically or circularly, if you want. And some will have to end in order to let other to take the stage. And it is just like that. This is the law of the universe. I recently published, but in Serbian language, one new publication, or we can say book. The name is Cycles and Cyclicism, and with three authors there speak about that. Why makes sense to view time as a cyclical process. And I always say I don't have that much material in English, but maybe those things will be translated, I will see. But we live in cycles, definitely. And at least you know that if you're interested in astrology. And if you follow my videos in the last 5 years, I always talk about cycles, always find historical events that were happening and that they are repeating actually in a way. And now let's say a few words about personal horoscopes. Since it is the most stormy round the eclipse that take place at the 16th degree of Taurus, then changes will feel mainly people who are born in the fixed signs, Taurus, Scorpio, Leo, and Aquarius, especially those who have planets or important horoscope points around the 16th degree. I would add an orbit plus minus 5 degrees. So also, if somebody has ascendant in Taurus or other fixed sign around this degree, midheaven or some other points. These fixed signs will be driven to like take a turn that they don't like much. It will look like that. There is a tension. But they don't need to rush. Definitely, like universe is preparing for them for that since spring this year, and they have time until spring next year to do certain changes or to adapt to the certain changes, and everything will go normally. You don't need to be worried. You in this time of eclipses maybe should sleep more, have a rest, and just listen, and many things will maybe come to you through your dreams. Anyway, this is like this subconscious is strong during eclipses, not conscious. So we learn more from our dreams. In this time, by the influence of these eclipses, not only fixed signs, but all of us will change attitude toward money and values. And for many of us, it will be for better, you know. Let's remember that. This does not mean that it will be changed for worse. That's why we should not be afraid of this, what is happening. It is maybe going to be huge, but for better. And well, until now, many of us were not aware what do we have. Many were not aware of that, what he has created. And many did not appreciate themselves. And after this eclipse, it will be different. We will more appreciate ourselves, our work, that what we did, that what we have, that how we live, and things like that. In November, Jupiter is in Pisces, and it is exalted there. It not only symbolizes the salvation which is so needable now, but also this position of Jupiter speaks about that everything what is happening has meaning, nothing is accidental, everything serves to something, and everything is exactly as it should be. So very fine aspect, transit. And the last important aspect in November is the trine between Mars and Saturn, which appears at the very end of the month. It symbolizes pragmatic and rigid struggle in order to achieve something. And let's hope that it will be useful for world events. And this aspect will be especially useful for people who have planets in Gemini, Aquarius, and Libra. They will be very strong in doing and feel strength in doing some jobs or finishing with some obligations that they have or things like that. And that's basically all for now that I wanted to tell you about November. If you want, you can contact me, have consultations with me, personal consultations. Check all of the links that are under this video on YouTube. There you will see some other links to my web pages and recommended videos on YouTube also. If you want to schedule consultations with me, please know that I'm doing this personal development, astrological psychology, spiritual astrology, and things like that. Actually, that I don't predict to people what will happen to them, as I don't believe in predictions. Actually, I believe that we can do whatever we want if we are on the right level of consciousness, needed level of consciousness. There are many people who follow videos on YouTube, but they don't know astrology, so they're always asking me questions that are sometimes even a little bit naive, I have to say. So if you follow this video, which is of course not bad at all, just I want to say that if you are interested in astrology, please learn a bit astrology. There are many books that can help you to study that if you didn't before, and I also offer through my web pages in English, I offer online astrology school, which is very simple. Everybody can learn basic of astrology to that. It is online learning, so you can pay for this, and then you get the link, and you study on your mobile phone or on your computer. And also there are questions, you can check your knowledge, or you just study without checking, and like things like it's like a game. It's a playful course and very easy to understand and to learn astrology. If you like this video, like it, share it, and sign up to my channel, and thank you very, very much for that in advance. I wish you happiness and joy. May life flourish on earth, and see you soon.